Full compliance with the Paris Agreement would cost hundreds of billions of dollars per year beginning now and rise to 1 to 2 trillion per year from 2030 onward. As Copenhagen Consensus Center President Bjørn Lomborg pointed out, it would still reduce CO2 emissions by only 1% of the amount the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change says is needed to limit global warming to 2 degrees Celsius over pre-industrial levels, and would reduce global average temperature in the year 2100 by only 0.3 degrees Fahrenheit, an inconsequential amount. Yet radical environmentalists are heavily pushing global warming policies on developing countries that can't afford it. Vijay, do radical environmentalists have influence in India?
The influence of radical environmentalists first surfaced during the 1970s when the Western political elements that embraced the Malthusian principle began imposing strict population control measures in India. This was pretty easy for them to do, as India was a very poor nation during that period, and foreign aid came with a mandatory clause. One such clause was the population control agenda, which was then incorporated into the national 5-year development plans. However, in the recent decades, their influence went beyond birth control measures. They now enforce policies that restrict the rightful use of environmental resources, especially fossil fuel resources. The influence of these radical elements has only increased with the global warming agenda. By impeding India's access to fossil fuel resources, they have interfered with the very heart of its economic growth. The country recently banned Greenpeace in India for interfering with national policies on environmental resources.
Has radical environmentalism and the global warming climate change panic done any harm in India?
Radical environmentalism has long infiltrated the Indian educational system. Man has been portrayed as the evil cancer of the earth, responsible for all the death and decay in the world. His ingenuity is neglected and has resulted in a polarized caricature of man. Some of the environmental lobbies have little regard for human life and have continued to push the implementation of the Malthusian principle, a theory that states that human population levels are responsible for the destruction of the environment, and it advocates for population control measures, including forced population control. The most damaging factor, though, has been the global warming agenda. That agenda has been forced on India by the developed nations that don't currently face the same challenges that we do. In other words, the transition from fossil fuels to low yield sources like wind and solar would have more adverse impact on India, while contributing nothing to the economy in the process. India's energy security is at high risk because of the climate change policies, and without access to its energy resources, the country's economy would be handicapped.
India has ratified the Paris Agreement. How is that going to impact the country?
Before we try to gauge the implications of the ratification on India's economy, I think it is necessary that we understand the nature of the Paris Agreement. India's commitment to the Paris Agreement is very lenient in the way it uses its indigenous coal resources. Although the impact of the contract will be minimal, the transition goals will considerably take away financial resources that would otherwise could have helped economic growth. The sum that will be spent on the installation and operation of so-called renewables will not contribute significantly to the elevation of poverty among its 1.3 billion population, and it could be used to much greater benefit in other ways. Also, the fact that many developed nations have not yet ratified the agreement begs the question as to why the Indian administration jumped ahead with the ratification. This agreement is bad for the nation, and any transition to solar and wind should not be at the expense of a more viable energy option that provides abundant, affordable, and reliable energy.
To learn more about the Cornwall Alliance for the Stewardship of Creation and our work in energy, development, poverty alleviation, and the environment, go to www.cornwallalliance.org and www.earthrisingblog.com. You can also learn more about biblical environmental stewardship by ordering our Resisting the Green Dragon book and DVD set, or our documentary, Where the Grass is Greener, Biblical Stewardship vs. Climate Alarmism, on our online store. You can also follow us on Facebook at Cornwall Alliance and Twitter at Cornwall Steward.